Hi, everyone. It is Danielle Marie from the One Realty, or Danielle Fountain from the One Realty here in Austin, Texas, where I take a data-driven all-in-one approach to real estate. And that also means providing you with those updated numbers of what is happening in the market. In Texas, we are a non-disclosure state, which means that if you go onto Zillow, Realtor.com, all those different sites, you're never going to find actually what the true sales price is. You'll find out what the past list price, but not the sales price. So that's where I'm going to kind of go in, give you some details that you can't find elsewhere. With that being said, I didn't do last week's report. So when I say last week's, 2 weeks ago, I didn't pull the numbers. So we're going to be looking at the numbers, what happened on 14 May, and we're going to be comparing it to 28 May. And if you're tuning in right now, it's the 2nd of June, but because we're already past the end of May, I'm going to give you a glimpse into what is May's numbers as far as the sales number here in Austin. Typically, we see those numbers finalized in about a week and a half, but you're going to get all that data if you just stay here and join in. So go ahead, subscribe or follow if you're not already doing so that you can find me in the future, and feel free to share this so that your friends can join in too. So without further ado, we are going to hop into Austin's real estate numbers. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat as well, and I will hopefully answer them. With that, first and foremost, and so you're going to see I always throw, hey, something's out of the ordinary, I'm going to throw that. So normally it's a 1 week. If you look, I've been doing it week over week. That's how we track. I'm tracking the data so I can understand what changes. So for active listings, we increased over 2 weeks, 180. Now, last week was also the holiday weekend, so we probably should have seen a bigger surge if it was a normal week, but not crazy. Now, we're going to kind of get into these numbers in a second in regards to what does our inventory look this year compared to previous years. So first and foremost, our average price, you can see that at 1.18 and that's 729. Now, we hit our peak in around like mid-April. We were at we were just shy of 1.25 million for our average, and our median was at like 750,000. We've gone down since the middle of April as far as our average and median list price, which is probably also because we've had so many price reductions. So 53.44% of our listings as of last Wednesday on the 28th have had a price reduction. Let me put that in perspective. When we were in December and January, so if I go all the way back to December and January, we'll do that right there. The number of listings with a price reduction from 26 December to 2 January was at 52.41%. So we have, and I'm going all the way back, we have more listings now than we did at the end of the year with a price reduction. What does that say? Well, when we start talking about the other numbers as far as sales data, we have slowed down tremendously from the buyer side here in Austin. For the new listings, these were also, so go back into that. So we've seen price going down since April as far as the list price, but that's partly due to our number of price reductions. The other thing that we're seeing is our days on market have started to creep up. They've been creeping up for a little bit over the last month. We've creeped up every week. So seeing it at 70 and 48 days. If this continues, we'll expect to see the number of price reductions to continue to elevate. When we were at kind of the worst in 2022, when properties were down, we were in the 60s. So we'll see if we get that high. The other reason we won't get that high is if people decide to lease out their property, they pull their property off the market, then that's going to kind of bring it down, as well as if we get new homes hitting the market. Here you can see the last 7 days, there was 339 new listings, which is an increase of 22. And you kind of see the price point. So going back to our average and median price going down, yes, it's going down because of price reductions. It's also going down because of the change in the list price. With that being said, what I want to show you real quick is I'm going to stop sharing this, and I want to show you what historically is happening in regards to the number of inventory here in Austin. So if I'm going to share this, what I'm going to share is where we've been active listings. Let's see this. Okay, so this is all of the active listings, and I just did it from 2022. So these are the number of active listings. So if you know right now, when I said, hey, we're at like 20, as far as for our active listings, we're at 3,795 active listings. Well, so right here, you're going to see May and June's numbers. Now, these numbers are always going to be a little bit higher because there's going to be listings that have come on the market and that have gone under contract. So in total, this is going to give you the total number of houses that at any single point in time have been active for sale during that month. And so you see here in May, we were at over 4,000 listings. And so that is just, it trumps where we were in 22, 23. I mean, if I pulled back to 21, you would see how there's such a tremendous change in and this was like literally it was right in May is where we hit the highest price points. And then you can see all of a sudden our inventory surged, and it continued to surge even to where we are now. So I fully expect more price reductions. Now, people ask, are we going to see the prices falling out of the sky? Chances are, if a seller does not need to sell, they might not reduce their price as much. They might stick to either leasing it out or just waiting a little bit longer, meaning they're pulling it off the market and they maybe sell in the future, and they just wait to see what is happening. Because we're also going to talk about what is happening in the prices in regards to what's going pending and what's selling. There is still very much a market for niche areas. I had a client I just showed houses today, and we were looking at houses in the 2 million, 3 range. And there was 5 houses he wanted to see. We were just starting his search. So this wasn't a put an offer in. This was like, hey, I just want to go see 5 houses. This area, I want to look. Out of those 5 houses from when we talked on Friday, we went today, 2 of them actually had contracts. So it was very interesting to see at that price point what was already moving. 2 of the houses were actually off-market private listing houses that we found for him. 3 were on market. So out of those 5, 1 off-market and 1 on-market, both went under contract before we saw, in a matter of 3 days, before we saw houses today. So it does happen. It's just a specific area where houses are moving. With that, we are going to pop back over, and I'm going to go back to our spreadsheet to show us, hey, what is actually, what is happening as far as our pending. So with our pending listings here in Austin, and we're seeing all of our active, and you see how large those numbers are getting. How is our pending looking? So if we drop down into our pending listings for week over week, so our pending listings week over week, we are going to see that we went up by 4 as far as our total pending. And so this was like a 2-week increment. So we were doing from 14 to 28 May, only 4 new pending. That's not really, not too great. We're not going negative, but we should be going higher. This was the kicker. Our new weekly pending, we dropped to 169. So meaning from Wednesday of 1 week to Tuesday of the next week, how many did we go pending? What were buyer activity? So I'm going to show you this pending chart that I've been keeping track of week over week. It shows us kind of what's the price point, how many houses went pending, and kind of pulling all that data. So you can see our biggest week we had was end of April, beginning of May. It was 224. Close, but then we dropped down. And so 207 this past week. Now, granted, it was a holiday weekend. It was Memorial Day weekend. So it was Memorial Day weekend, as well as on Friday, our interest rates went up to 7.02%. Now, this is from Mortgage News Daily. So we saw the interest rates go up, and then we saw a drop in the number of pending houses as far as new pending houses for the week. Part of this may also have to do with that holiday weekend. And it was always, I also put, it was end of school. So this was literally the last week of school here in Austin, which might explain that. So really, we're going to see what happens this next week. Does this number go up? So was it a fluke with the end of school, the holiday weekend? Was it a fluke with interest rates? Where is our patterns? That's what we want to identify. Where are our patterns? As far as average price point and median price point, still very similar to week over week. Our prices have kind of stayed in this realm, so that 850, 650. when we start getting into different parts of Austin, we do have some luxury areas where we see houses going for 10,000 or 10 million and plus. You might have seen Emma Stone's house got listed for 26 million, different things like that, that you're going to see that raises the price point here in Austin. As far as days on market, and so this is showing the slowdown. Our days on market for those that are going pending has also started to go up, which means that there are people that are buyers. This shows a couple things. One, there are new buyers coming to the market that are going and buying old inventory, or there are old buyers that have been watching inventory in the market, waiting for these price reductions that we're talking about right up here. Then they're acting. If we saw these days on market going down, that would be an indicator that there are buyers just sitting waiting for new listings to come on the market because what is currently on the market does not fit their need and their demand. We're seeing it going up, so that's indicating new buyers looking at old listings that have been sitting, and B, buyers that have been sitting on the market waiting for specific properties to maybe drop. Well, this is not a surprise when we're seeing older properties go under contract. That's also why we're seeing the number of listings with a price reduction. So 457 houses, or 44.11% of the active list of the pending listings had a price reduction. Not a surprise, considering that 53.44% of the active listings have a price reduction. Okay, so this right here is my leading indicator too. This is going to tell me, hey, where is the market going? Seeing this number right here, 169, and if we actually go back to this pending sheet right here, seeing these numbers that we did like the past 4 weeks be smaller than those that we saw in April, that leads me to believe when we get to June, the number of closings are going to be down. They're going to be down in comparison to May, just because of the number of houses that went pending, unless all of a sudden we have a huge surge in this first week. That being said, we'll see May as the strongest month in regards to the number of sales so far this year. And that's going to be very interesting when we start getting into that data. So if we go back to our weekly right here, we're going to look at those that have closed in the past 30 days, the rolling 30 days. And this was the 28th of May's data. So it was essentially very end of April to end of May. We saw 763 homes close with an average sales price. And so this is where you saw those 2 weeks. So seeing a 2 weeks, you kind of get a little bit of difference. 845 for your average, and your median was at 635,000. Days on market, we'll start to see those days on market because you can see they're bigger here with pending. We're going to start to see this tick up in the coming weeks. That's going to change. We're going to start seeing an increase in days on market for our closed listings based on what is pending. The other big indicator of how soft the market is how much are sellers negotiating and giving up during negotiations when it comes to selling their house. So there's two different ways. One, we're going to look at closed price to list price, meaning closed price to what it's currently listed at. The other way we're going to do is closed price to original list price, because we said 53.44% of listings have had a price reduction. So it's closed price, you've got their current list price, and then you have their original list price before. And so we're going to look at all of those. With that being said, you're seeing this is staying fairly consistent week over week, that 97.71% of closed price to list price for your average, and your median is at 98%. Now, and sitting here for closed price to original list price, we're at like 95.42. So we're going for about 4.5% on average under the original list price and about 2% under the current list price. We're also looking at closed price to original list price. The median, it's 3%. So the middle house is actually, which is surprising, the middle house is actually selling more, the median house versus the average. And that's also probably because we have some houses that sit substantially longer and sellers are really willing to make a deal. And so you're going to see your average drop down because you have some sellers that are kind of not giving away, but significantly reducing the price or agreeing to a reduced price in regards to getting your house under contract. Now, what I want to show you is, so here's the average sales price. We've continued, besides this week, we see this drop. Before that, we've kind of stayed. Before that, we were kind of going up. You can see it changes week over week. So we'll have some big weeks, but what we really want to key in on is the monthly. So we're about to hop in and we're about to talk about what is currently, I just realized that if you weren't paying, I went to reshare it and I realized you guys have not been seeing this reshared. So I'm going to show you this so that if you've been watching, you've been listening to me talk, you didn't see it. But real quick, we can track these weekly pending numbers that I was talking about. So we were talking about where our numbers were from 14 to 28 May. We were talking about our pending listings. And so I'm going to show you these numbers again right here. And so here's where you're seeing that our pending listings only went up by 4, but our weekly pending dropped down to that 169. And so what I want to show you right there is, if you weren't paying attention or you couldn't see it, this is my weekly pending. So we're going to see here in April, all of our numbers here in April were substantially higher than our numbers here in May. So right here, we can see what's happening in May as far as the number of pendings. We're significantly down. What that means is that when we get to close sales, our sales for June are probably going to be significantly less. We talked about that. And then the other thing I was showing on here, so you can see your average price point, that 845 and 645, that's when we're kind of starting to see a drop down. I expect to continue to see a drop down, as if you look at our average price of pending compared to our average sales and median sales, even with the drop down on the close price to original list price right here, we're probably going to see some movement in here as the market softens even more. People ask, are we going to see prices drastically reduce? I don't think so. I think that we'll just continue to see some prices go down. I think we're going to see a lot of people pull their houses off the market. One thing I'd actually be interested, I'm throwing this out there as I'm talking. Let me know if you're interested in how many houses are on the market that are vacant. That actually might be a very interesting data point, because that's also a pain point with sellers. If a house is vacant, is the seller more likely to accept less? Well, they're holding the carrying costs, and if there's a note on the house, they probably are. Okay, with that, we are going to hop, without further ado, we are going to hop into May's numbers like I promised. You're going to see June's numbers at the end of this week. So on Wednesday, I'll do the numbers, and on Thursday, I'll give you a report, and we're going to check it all out. But we're going to look at where are we for May. So if you aren't already following me or subscribed, go and do so now. Hit the bell, and this way you can find it. If you also save it, it helps you to find this in the future, as well as it helps me. So if you save that or you share this, it's the best way to actually help me get exposure to other people, and so other people can find my data here for. I do appreciate that. So with that, where are we today? May 25th to date. So, or May 25, 2025, but I actually pulled it today. So this is actual live updated number for June 2nd, where we are in May. So far in May, we've closed 777 homes. Now, this is where we have to keep things in mind as far as where are we historically. So if you come back here historically for May, our average is at 1166. So 1,166. How does that compare? Well, 33.36% under. So we should be selling about 389 more homes if we want to do the average. The highest we ever sold was in 06 at 1627. The lowest was in 2020. So, which kind of makes sense. So we shut down everything in March of 2020. We shut down all of Texas. People weren't really out buying. So what happened in April, as far as not having buyers, is all what we saw was going to be in May. So think about this. The month after COVID shutdowns, we sold 817. This month, to date for May, it's only 777. Do I think that we might get above that 777 or that 817? I'm going to say probably highly not. It's probably not likely. I think that we might, and I've talked about this earlier. If you watch some of my previous ones for my projections for where I think we might end up at the end of May, I think that we'll end up close to 800. Do I see us closing another 23 out? And when I say closing another 23 out, it's what people haven't updated in the books. I actually think that might be possible just because Friday was the last day and people coming into office Monday and Tuesday. So I would be surprised if we get over 800. I don't think that we will. I'm not sure we'll get over the 817, but stand by and you'll get an update later this week when I update the numbers again to kind of give you, hey, here's where we're at. Now, here's the other part that we're looking at is what is the average sales price? What is the median sales price? You're going to look at here. This is year over year. So right here, this is comparing us 25's data to 24's data. That's right here. As well as then we're comparing month over month. So we're comparing May of 2025 to, if we go down here, April of 2025. And that's these numbers that you're going to see right here. So first and foremost, year over year, we've seen the average price go up 2.25%. We haven't seen a price as far as the median sales price here in Austin. It has stayed the same. So we kind of hit the plateau. Earlier in the month, we were up. Right now, we've plateaued out. If we want to look at where we are for the year, and we're going to look at month over month, you can see month over month, we're up 1.98%, so almost 2% as far as our average. For our median, we're up 3.34%, but that's expected. We typically see our May be stronger than our April. That's on a typical yearly calendar cycle. That's what we're going to see. We just didn't see a stronger number for May. So with the number of price reductions and with what we're seeing, so if we click back over and I want to look at my weekly. So we're seeing 859 and 650. If we want to go back over here and see what is pending, 851 and 649, we're not having a lot of over asking. So with that being said, if we're looking at our monthly, 859 and 650, I think for June, we're going to see that drop down. Maybe the end of May. I think that we're going to start seeing our year numbers go down. So this will be a very interesting. And actually, I kind of want to add, now that we're talking about that, I kind of want to add a data point of like, where are we from the beginning of the year? So if you look right here, we're at 859 and 650. What were we closing in January? So just bear with me while we take a look. So January, we were at 775 and 565 is what we closed out in January. So that's a big jump from here. But I think that's something that I think we're going to see our prices go up. I think we might be plateauing and peaking in our prices. And I think that we're going to kind of trail off a little bit. That's also why you're seeing days on market go on. You're also seeing those ratios, those close to list price were less than last year by 0.5% for the average, 0.25% for also down month over month. So this right here is telling me that we're going to start seeing lower price sales are starting to come in. But that is a big portion of it. Now I kind of want to show, everyone some more data as far as where do we, as far as buyer and sellers market and strength of market. There is a document I'm going to kind of show you. If you know me, you know that I am a data geek and nerd. And so I'm going to show you kind of some analysis of the Austin market. It's a Central Texas analysis, but I'm going to kind of show you where do we sit this year. So let me share this screen window. Here we go. And pull this up. And this is just a lot of different data. So this is what we're looking at we're looking at just for the city of Austin. We're looking at just single family homes. I did not put any other discriminators as far as lowering different areas. But so this is just going to kind of similar snapshot to what we just looked at, that 650, the average sales, 860, exactly what we were just seeing there. But I'm going to take you all the way down. It's a big, big, big long report that I love. But I want to kind of give you some market temperature to kind of say, where are we now compared to last year? So right here, this red line is going to be the median days on market. The higher the days on market, the higher chance that homes are selling for under their price. So right here, you're going to see percent over under list price right here. And that's this gray line you're seeing down here. And you can see it's going to say it's but I really feel like we're in a buyer's market right now. And so this is showing you based on days on the market where it falls. This is showing you the percent under asking, kind of where it falls. But I would say it depends on how you look. A buyer and seller's market, if it's balanced, it's typically 6 to 7 months worth of supply. Now, that's kind of over time, that's kind of stabilized, but occasionally you'll get lots of supply, and so it might become into more of a buyer's market because there's competition, or you might get a reduced amount of supply, like that one area I was talking about where out of the 5 houses, 2 of them went under contract. So we're talking about 40% of the houses went under contract of those 5 houses over the course of a weekend. That area is going to be more of a seller's market just because there's a demand in that specific neighborhood area. And that's like the Terrytown, Old Enfield, all of those areas is kind of where this house was. So with that being said, you can see our median days on the market. We kind of hit our low point in April, and we've kind of been tracking back up in May. And you can't see it. I can't, on this is a download sheet, but you can't see it, but we're actually very much in lockstep with where we were last year. We're also very much in lockstep as far as our percent over under asking to last year. Now it's showing right, hey, we're right here in a seller's market. I think we're gonna hit this middle neutral zone fairly quickly. You can see this happened not even in August of last year. So in August last year, we were up here, and in June, we were right here. So it happened fairly quickly. I think that's going to happen again. If we look at market pricing, and so this is going to say like the median sales price. The median sales price from today and last year, we already talked about this. It's exactly the same as far as the median. And then the dollar per square last year to this year, we're actually commanding for the dollar per square foot, we're actually commanding a little less this year. Now, I say take that with apples to apples because it could be that we're selling larger houses, and so the dollar per square foot is going to go down. It could also be that there's renovators and flippers in an area, so it's going to go down. Different things like that are really going to play into what the final analysis is. So with that, I want to thank y'all for joining in and for my weekly update. If you have specific questions about the Austin market, specifically for your house, or you're looking to buy in the Austin market and you want to understand what's actually happening in this niche, this micro market versus the market as a whole, feel free to reach out and DM me. You can find me on X at the One Realty. So it's the_one_realty. You can also go to www.theonerealty.com and you can find me there, or just even on Instagram. You can just look up Danielle. Danielle is actually Taylor Fountain that you can find on there, or look up The One Realty. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and stay cool because it's getting hot here in Austin.